struggling to move your nonprofit forward? You've come to the right place. Welcome to the Nonprofit Architect, where we are giving you the actionable steps you need to launch and grow your nonprofit organization. Now, here's your host, Travis Johnson.
Hey, Travis Johnson, welcome to the Nonprofit Architect, helping you build a stronger nonprofit. If you love what we have to say and you want to support us, patreon.com/nonprofit architect. Throw a $5 bill in there every month to help us keep the show on the air. I am here with the lovely and talented Lori McNeil, Mrs. Oregon 2016, college professor, international speaker with Think and Grow Rich, and Lori D. McNeil International, who just launched her book today, Media Secrets Revealed, which is book number 1,000,000, however many books that she's written. Holy cow, Lori, welcome. Thank you for being here, and how are you doing today?
Thank you so much for having me. I am doing fabulous. I've got so many amazing things going on, and it is awesome to be with you here today and just to speak to your audience about just all kinds of cool things with business and nonprofits. So I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, let's just jump right into it, Lori. Give us a little 90-second, 2-minute version of what it is that you do.
So I actually retired after 22 years in education, the last 8 years as a business professor, developing business programs across the country that are still being used today for MBA programs. Jumped full-time into entrepreneurship a couple of years ago and decided that I wanted to start teaching and coaching in all kinds of greater, deeper ways with greater impact than I was able to do within the confines of a college campus and within the constructs of the educational system. So I've taken everything that I've been teaching for over 22 years and packaged it basically in a completely new, more impactful way to reach nonprofits, entrepreneurs, businesses in greater levels. So I travel the world speaking. I happen to be on the Think and Grow Rich tour right now with some other amazing speakers that teach the principles of Napoleon Hill way back in the 1930s. So it's an honor to be a part of that team. I do a lot of vision work. I do a lot of leadership stuff. I speak about your internal tools. And then I write a ton of books, as you were saying. I just launched my newest one this morning, Media Secrets Revealed. So there's a lot of things that I do with my clients, and it really is about helping them accomplish their goals and meeting them wherever they are to getting them to wherever that they need to be to reach that greater impact level globally. So it's not just about starting a business or starting an organization, but it's what do you need to do to actually leave a bigger footprint on this world generations after you? What's the legacy that you want to leave? What's the greater impact of why you're doing what you do? And I take people completely through the steps on how to shift their mindset in understanding that so that they understand then what they need to do to leave that true, deeper legacy.
Wow. What do you say after that? But wow. Truly amazing. And thank you for carving out the time to come talk to me and impact my listeners. I know we had some scheduling problems trying to make sure we're all on the same page, and then your computer exploded or got lost, stolen, destroyed. I don't know what happened. But you've been all over the place. You were in Texas at Vegas, and you've got a speaking engagement coming up in Salt Lake City, and you were just one busy gal. And just glad to have, an hour or so of your time. So, wow, amazing. I know that your new book, Media Secrets Revealed, is the revelation that got dropped today with your whole new team, and you've had quite a bit of media success. How can people in the nonprofit space, what do they have to do to leverage this thing called media? And I'm not talking necessarily social media, but like legit radio and television. How can they leverage that in their world?
Yeah, there's so much that people can do they're just so easy. There's the big fish, that people are trying to go after for the greatest impact. But with the advancement of technology that we have at our fingertips and the opportunities that we literally have at our fingertips in our in our pockets or in our purses or in our hands most of the time with our cell phones or iPads, laptops, all these things. There's so many things that you can do that are free or that don't cost very much that you can use as leverage then for those bigger and bigger opportunities around you all the time. For instance, there's so many people that I talk to who don't necessarily have a very professional social media presence. So in order to attract the bigger fish, you have to then have a professional presence. It may sound funny, but there's so many people who still don't understand the difference between a professional Facebook page and a personal Facebook page and how to manage those two things. And they still have way too many pictures of, their cat or their dog or what they ate for breakfast or all these random things because they're not understanding the impact and the power that they hold and how, even though, yes, your personal page, for instance, is personal, you still need to maintain a very professional presence, even on your personal page. If you have a business, if you have an organization, if you're trying to get higher and higher levels of media. And so the more that you fight that and the more that you don't really understand the importance of that, the more that you're just going to continue to struggle with that because they are searching you on the internet across all platforms. And they're also searching to see if you're maintaining continuity in your messaging and in your brand essence and in who you are. So if the person that you're portraying on Facebook, for instance, is different than the person that you're portraying on LinkedIn or on Twitter or on Instagram, that's going to raise some major red flags because you need to have the same type of photos, the same type of messaging, the same type of overall brand essence and presence across all of your social media. Your website needs to be up to date. As much as we're doing on social media now, you can't neglect your website. There's a lot of people who have outdated websites. You need to put time into that. And you need to understand how to link all of those things together. So how are you using your website for lead generation? How are you linking that with your Facebook lead generation, for interest for different things? So all of that matters in order to attract the attention of the bigger, kind of more traditional fish, so to speak. So if you're wanting to be on national television, you have to start with your social media and you have to start with your local media opportunities. Okay, so your local media opportunities are going to care a lot about how involved you are in your community. And they're going to care a lot about your social media presence. Don't necessarily stress out about your number of followers because quality trumps quantity. So you can have 1 million followers, and if those people aren't really aligning with your messaging and they're not necessarily showing up to your events or buying from you or supporting your fundraisers or that kind of stuff, they're literally just numbers on a page. Okay, so I want you guys to think about, yes, they're kind of watching that number, but quality will trump quantity every time. So that's where a lot of people get really confused, thinking that they can't go after the bigger fish until they have a certain number of people on their social media platform. That's maybe just one factor that people are watching. They're watching a whole bunch of other stuff that has a lot more to do with how you show up, has a lot more to do with your messaging, with your overall mission, your continuity of your messaging. There's a whole bunch of factors that have to do with that. And your number of followers is just one factor. So that's a conversation that I have a lot with people, is that they're so worried that they don't have a huge following. Don't necessarily stress out about that. You want to make sure that you actually have a multifaceted approach with how you're positioning yourself in order to be attractive to the people that you're trying to attract, whoever that is, whether that's a local media station or newspaper, whether that's a magazine, whether that's national television, it doesn't matter. But you're trying to constantly attract somebody to get you to that next level, to get you to that next opportunity, whatever that is. And you need to stay in complete alignment and focus on what it is that you're doing, because you want to attract the right people. You're not trying to attract anybody and everybody. You're trying to attract very specific people that are going to get you to that next level that gets you closer to whatever your next goal is goal, on your ladder that ultimately then serves your overall mission, your overall vision and purpose that's way up here. But you don't want to just accept any opportunity because that media outlet or that person or that mission might not be completely in line with you. So the more that you are in alignment with your own mission and with your own brand essence, and you stand in your value and you stay in integrity with who you are and the mission that you have, you will attract the right media outlet, and you will be better positioned then for a successful pitch to a specific outlet that you're trying to go after. So there's a couple of key things then that make all the difference in the world that don't necessarily cost you any money or cost you very much money at all. And it all starts with you. It absolutely starts with you and how you are positioning yourself and how you're showing up and how involved you are even on a local level, because this will help you do a couple of things. It will help not only with your positioning and with your branding and with your overall presence that you have in Google searches and all of that, even with the local level, but it will also give you the practice that you need for your interviews. Okay. Yeah. You need more practice than you realize. And I know this because of the conversations that I'm having with people. In order to really maximize and leverage that bigger fish that you're after, you have to practice at the lower level a lot more than you think you do right now. No matter how good you think you are, no matter how much you can speak, or how many pages that you speak on, or how many, interviews that you've done the last couple years, it doesn't matter. You can always improve from wherever you are. You can always get better. You can always hone in on that messaging. You can always get better at speaking in sound bites. You can always get better at answering any question that is thrown at you, because there's going to be a question. No matter how many times you've been interviewed, there's always going to be some random question that kind of stops you in your tracks. And the more that you practice, the quicker and better that you will be in answering the most random question and turning that around to be in alignment with your messaging. Mm-hmm. The purpose that why you are on that show, why you are being featured in that outlet. Don't let questions stump you. Learn to be a better person being interviewed in order to switch that around to the message that you want to leave. Even if they ask you some random question about weather on the top of Mount Kilimanjaro, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what the topic is. Doesn't matter what the question is. You need to be so good that nothing throws you off track. And in order to do that, you have to utilize and exhaust, if you will, your local opportunities. I don't care if it's your local Rotary Club or service organization and you're just in front of them for a few minutes. I don't care if it's a local radio station that's maybe not nationally syndicated. I don't care what it is. Do not let any opportunity go by on your local level, because if anything, you can always take photos. You always have a few seconds of any kind of a sound bite, and you can always use the interview practice. So never underestimate the power of the small, if you will, opportunities, because they actually have huge opportunity that you can leverage higher and higher and higher as you go.
Absolutely. I've seen people that you hear about their mission and you go to their social media and you scroll through it, and it's a veteran organization and they have a specific mission, and they posted something about 9/11 and they posted something about Labor Day, Memorial Day, and you're looking through this thing and you scroll through 15, 18, 25 posts to get back 2.5 months to see anything about them and their mission. And you've talked to the guy and you know he's got a big heart, and you go to his personal page and you see on there how he's mad at his girlfriend Rita and they're going through something, and it just doesn't line up to have someone that is caring about some group of people who's over here trashing his girlfriend on his personal page. What are some of the biggest faux pas, some of the biggest mistakes, problems that you see with an organization between their business stuff and their personal stuff?
Oh man, you actually hit a really big one when you mentioned the lack of messaging, the lack of integrity, really, with the messaging that they're trying to portray in the world versus what's going on in their personal life. We all have stuff that goes on because we're human and life is life, but how you throw it out there is going to be what you attract. It's, if you think about that law of attraction that that's kind of a terminology that's kind of thrown out there a lot. There's a lot of truth to that. If you want to attract absolute rock stars, you have to make sure that you're putting out the rock star that you are, not by lying, not by not being honest, but by not focusing on the negative, not focusing on the drama, not focusing on the stressful things. Whatever you put out there will come back to you. If not to mention you have internal strife when you're not in integrity with what's going on in your life. If you're out in front of somebody and you have a very positive message that you're trying to communicate with your mission, and you've got all kinds of junk going on in your personal life, it's going to cause more stress and turmoil internally for you than you even realize until you face whatever that is. So number one, take care of your life, take care of yourself, take care of your family, take care of your stuff so that that's not literally weighing you down mentally and physically in a way. We all have stuff that might be out of our control a little bit, but you used to have complete control with how you're showing up in the world and how you're focusing on that and how you are allowing that to attract more negativity. And when you post stuff on social media, you're not only out of integrity with your messaging that's just out there floating around in the internet, but you're attracting more of that drama for people to comment on your posts, for you to engage in that negative conversation, for you to put out that negativity and that stress in the space. You're actually then completely attracting more negativity into your life and red flags and questioning your overall maturity, professionalism, all kinds of other things. So it's leaving people kind of confused with, oh man, how can I trust him to take care of, this business, this organization, my money, my donations, my whatever, when he's disrespecting his girlfriend, his friends, his family, his neighbors, the person at the grocery store in front of him, whatever. It's very, very unprofessional. It's very negative. It sends complete red flags about who you are and your capabilities on so many levels, more than people realize when they do that. So I never tell people to be fake, but there's a difference in how you show up. There's a difference in how you communicate that you're having maybe a rough day. You can be honest with people without going into the whole big drama part of it. People want you to be authentic. They want you to show up. They expect that you're going to be human, but there's a difference in how you communicate that realism, that authenticity online, and without getting sucked into the negativity and the drama of it all. So what you mentioned is actually a huge issue that I see. And there's even some amazing rock stars out there that struggle with this because they put a post out in a heated moment. And so they do it in the heat of the moment.
Yeah.
And there are amazing, amazing people out there that are doing great, great things. But rather than taking a time out and cooling off and walking away and resisting going directly to social media, it's then out there forever because they've posted in the heat of the moment. So it's a huge, huge mistake that I see. And the other mistake that kind of is aligned with that is just your overall social media presence and then how people see you when they meet you. I had somebody, I can't remember who it was, make a post about it just this last week about how someone looked and acts very, very differently when they met them in person than the person that they actually portrayed online. So they not only physically looked completely different, whatever that meant, I don't even know, but they said it was so weird. We met them in person and they didn't even look like the same person and they definitely didn't act like the same person. And I thought, wow, that's not good. That's not good. You need to step into who you are and own that and be proud of that and stand in your value and be authentic. Whatever that is, you're going to attract the right tribe. You're going to attract the right clients. You're going to attract the right supporters by just being honest. And you can do that without being fake. And there's just a lot of, with the advancement of technology, there's so many fake people out there. And it's so easy to do with social media and with a camera. And, you can be whoever you want, which can be one of the really cool things about technology. But it's also can allow things to go too far into not being who you really are. And so I think in this space that those lines get really, really blurred, and those lines get crossed really, really easily sometimes without even realizing it. It's like the frog in the pot. You drop a frog in boiling water and it'll jump out quickly. But if you put a frog in cold water and turn up the heat slowly, the frog will boil to death because the change happens so slowly that they don't even realize what's happening. And sometimes with social media, that can be the case. We don't even realize how fake that we're becoming. We don't even realize how much we're molding to other people's expectations until it's happened. And then a lot of times this actually happens when people have these realizations with, man, why am I attracting all the wrong people? Why am I not getting the clients that I really want? Why am I not getting the media exposure that I really want, that I know that I'm capable of? Or why do I have all these sleazy, sales people wanting to align with me or whatever? Like that plays out in so many different ways, right? And it really goes back to you and your integrity and how you're showing up and the messaging that you're sending out there, and literally like throwing out to the universe, and what are you attracting back? So if you're seeming too salesy, too sleazy, too fake, that's honestly going to be what you're going to attract. And the right people who are seeing with complete clarity are going to recognize that in so many ways that you're not even understanding it, you're not even seeing it, because you're literally showing up with a completely different lens that's clouded over because of how you slowly have gone down the slippery slope of not showing up in the ways that you should be in order to have the greatest impact that you need to have and that you set out to once have. So don't be that frog in the pot. You need to go every day with intentional action and with intentional state of being with who you are and how you're showing up in absolutely everything that you do. Don't be a different person in person, literally, than you are online, so that people go, oh, that person's way different than I expected. You don't want that. Whoever that is that you want people to see, you want it to be the same no matter how they see you, how they meet you, how they have contact with you. That's a huge, huge struggle that I'm seeing with people online. Don't be afraid to be authentic. This old idea of, back in the 1950s, let's just say, of, well, I've got to be professional and I can't be anything, I can't let people know I even have kids, and I can't let people know that I want to show up for my son's soccer game, and I can't be, no, you need to be authentic. You need to be real, because you're going to attract the right people at all levels in your life. Those days are long gone. People want the real you. So you need to step into that and own it, whatever that looks like for you. Get out of your own head with the expectation that people have of you, and just be real, be authentic. And that's one of the biggest struggles that I'm seeing taking place in several different ways with entrepreneurs right now, whether that's on social media, whether that's in person, whether that's speaking even on stage, but then when you step off stage, you're a totally different person. Whatever that looks like, the ripple effect from that is so, so damaging, to the point that people aren't even fully realizing the damage that they're doing to themselves, their brands, their messaging, their opportunities. You've got to just lay down all that negativity, all of that, those false expectations, and just show up. Just take off the mask and just show up very, very real, very authentically, and just watch that shift happen. And the fear that comes into place when I talk to people is, well, what if my numbers start dropping? Okay, remember that quality trumps quantity. So if you, in your shift, in that shift that you need to have, and a lot of you need to have this shift, your numbers will drop. It's okay. Don't freak out, because the people that stay are staying to align themselves with the authentic you and support you in probably greater ways than they have to that point. And you will then attract the right people, right? So it's not about having 5,000 followers and being at your limit on your personal page, let's say. My guess is there's probably a ton of those people that probably shouldn't even be following you, that you shouldn't even really care too much about, because, or maybe you don't even have contact with them, whatever. Just think about what that would look like if 1,000 people dropped off because you are stepping into a greater version of yourself and you're allowing 1,000 spaces for the right people to be aligned with you.
Yeah.
So you literally are allowing and creating the space for people to connect with you. This is a multi-leveled issue that takes place in several different ways. And when you really dissect that and step into that, that's when the magic starts to happen. Now, when you start the shift process, it's going to be a little bit stressful. It's going to be a little bit chaotic. It's going to be a little bit uncomfortable, but you have to push past that. You've got to have persistence and faith and getting to what's on the other side. You can't buy into the resistance and into that fear, because it is a little bit difficult, and stay in that comfort zone, because you can't grow in your comfort zone. You've got to stretch yourself outside that comfort zone in order to reach that higher level. So this gets confusing for people when they say, oh, it's not working. It's too stressful. I've got this and I've got this issue, and all these things start cropping up. And so they think, oh, it must not be the right thing. I have all these numbers dropping off of my social media, or I have people saying, why am I doing this? Or why am I doing that? It must not be the right thing. And so they get confused about that. So I'm here to tell you that there is a little bit of push and pull. There is a little bit of that strife, a little bit of that chaos that has to happen in order for you to shift to that next level. So you've got to know that right off the bat, and you've got to recognize that and lean into that. You've got to push past that with persistence and with the faith in order to get to where you need to be with that. So I'm here to encourage you to step into your full authentic self and watch what happens and push past that transitional time, because you can't get to the gold on the other side unless you do.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. You know, if I want to be, and why wouldn't I want to be just like Lori McNeil, the best I could do, no matter how much effort I put into it, no matter how much work I did, I got the hair down, I get the walk down, everything. I become a professor, I become a speaker. The best I can be is number two. The best I can be at being Lori McNeil is the number two. I can never be number one Lori McNeil. The best I can be for Travis is to be me. Now, I got out to Bahrain out here, and a lot of the Saudis come over the bridge on the weekend. They come to have a good weekend out here in Bahrain, and they have some amazing cars, Maseratis, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, all these just expensive, insane cars. And I posted a couple of pictures walking by. It was like, oh, hey, here's a car I wouldn't normally see in the middle of Oklahoma, you know. And I got a few people that were like messaged me on the side, like, what are you doing with all these cars? Like, what is this thing going on? I was like, I'm just walking by them. They're not, they're not my cars. But it's amazing, because what you see on social media, that quick little snapshot, is all you get sometimes. And I wasn't trying to be inaccurate with messaging. I was just like, hey, look at this car. It's amazing. How about this? I had another guy ask me, like, who is your rental car company and how can I get in touch with these people? Because you always seem to be driving something amazing. And, that wasn't really my point or the focus of it, but that's what they saw. So these little things that we put out online, these little frustrations, which as long as you're not naming people with these frustrations, right, I think that's maybe okay. But if you're talking about someone specifically, naming them online, you better be saying something positive, like, man, I had a great podcast with Lori McNeil today. Thank you so much for taking out the time to be part of my show. I can't wait to do something together in the future, and it's going to be awesome. that's a great thing to put on social media. But if I put on something and this is not true, right? Caveat, this is not true. Man, Lori was a terrible guest. She provided no value. She just talked about herself all day and blah, blah, blah. What kind of person am I to do that? And if I am that kind of person, you better believe I'm not going to be in business very long, because people have no tolerance for things like that. There's a reason why Yelp and TripAdvisor and all these ranking websites become valuable, because you want to know what you're getting into. We're beyond the local level. We're in the digital, internet, worldwide, international stage, and we need some kind of social proof before we start doing business with somebody. Before we start, getting into these programs, processes, and exchanging money across states and time zones and across oceans. In the social media proof, that messaging, that alignment between what you're doing online on your business page and maybe on your personal page, if it's not there, people aren't going to pay you money. Whether you earn it or not, whether you're worth it or not, they're not going to donate to your cause. If you are up in front of people trying to build your nonprofit and you're asking for thousands of dollars, you can't do without them and this and that, and then your next post is you buying some kind of sports car, even though you may have bought it with your own money, they're going to have that question: is their financials all right? Are they spending my money inappropriately? So if you're a nonprofit, your 990 is not online for people to see where your money is going. If you don't know your numbers of how much goes to your overhead or what you're doing with their donations, then they're not going to donate to you, because you haven't passed the sniff test, the litmus test, the sight test, whatever test you want to use. You're going to give them this uneasy feeling, and they're not going to be sure if they want to give their money to you, because you don't look like someone that's going to take care of their money, be a good steward of their money, or help actually have it go towards your nonprofit like you say you will.
Oh, absolutely. That kind of stuff matters. You have to be thinking about the psychology of the other person, even if you're totally legit and it's not a fraudulent situation and you did spend your own money and maybe you've been saving up for a year, for that car or whatever it is. It's the perception and how you communicate that. So even if that's the case, then you can put on there, oh, we're so thankful. My wife and I have been saving for a year or 2 years and we feel so blessed. And, it's how you communicate whatever it is and still be real without creating that, that doubt. If you feel like, you don't have to hide it in the garage or anything like that, but it's how you communicate that blessing and how grateful you are and how you're building that relationship instead of raising that question. The other thing I wanted to go back to, Travis, for just a second, you said something that triggered something in my mind. So you said without mentioning somebody's name, tearing somebody down and the negative post, the whatever. So here's the trick. When you're because you want to be real, you want to be authentic. It's okay to mention certain things. Yes, without mentioning people's names or organizations or tearing people down. Absolutely, you don't want to do that. But here's the other trick that makes all the difference in the world with how that authenticity is perceived. You use it as a lesson to add value. You're not posting a negative post about something that somebody said or something that happened. You are using that as an example of something and flipping that around into the lesson that you want to teach within whatever was said and whatever was, witnessed or, happened, whatever it is. It's not just about the post. It's not just about the situation, the instance. You turn it into a teaching opportunity and into a lesson that adds a value to your audience. That is the difference. That's a huge, huge difference. And that's the piece that people miss, because in the heated moment, they go on social media and they make just a negative post and they're not thinking about the fact that that adds no value. All that does is throw negativity out. So what are you going to get? All kinds of supportive, negative comments back. When you add the value and use that situation as a learning opportunity, then you can engage in a positive, productive, constructive conversation. Then the focus is switched to the lesson behind it. And that makes all the difference in the world.
So as you're talking about this and the social media, I remember the first post that I kind of put out there looking for podcast guests. And if you know me at all, you know the kind of person I am. And I was really shocked when this gal reached out and she said she was on a couple of different boards and doing some different things. And as you were kind of messaging, I'm kind of looking this stuff up, right? I'm kind of looking for her in the internet space somewhere to kind of verify who I'm talking to. And I was like, hey, is this like this is on a website, this and that? Like, I'd love to, see more about it and learn some more. And she's like, oh, I just, I'm not in the online space and this and that. I'm like, well, that's kind of odd. It's like 2019. Like, it takes, 10 seconds to create a Facebook page and this and that. And we talked for a few more moments. And then she basically accused me of this kind of self-promoting thing. Oh, you're just doing this for you. And I'm sorry, my life it's not online and this and that and the other. And I'm trying to kind of reconcile this. And I was like, thanks. I understand, you don't want to be part of this thing. It's cool. And I took this time to kind of introspect, like the accusation, like, is this something that I'm doing for me? Is this some kind of self-promotion or some kind of, something I'm just going to, put on my sleeve and say, hey, look at this amazing thing that I've done. And I'm happy to say that that's not the case. That's not why I'm here. This is not why I'm doing this. And it's amazing how a comment like that can derail someone. A negative Yelp review or a negative comment on someone's page can completely derail something. And if it's bad enough, I have another friend, Cody Bobe, who runs Soulcom Ministries and Alcaborum Studios. Amazing things he's doing for men in the church and in Christ. And he runs he runs a special forces style, like, storytelling fitness. It's a very interesting concept, this and that. And he had some posts out there that were talking like he's not really special forces and this and that. And he's like, I don't usually have to, explain these things. He's like, I felt like I had to make a little video about this, like, just to clear the air. I was at one time air crew in the Navy, and I have not now, nor have I ever been, quote unquote, special forces. But we do teach a special forces style fitness routine. And he had to clear the air. He had to make a post addressing the specific thing so that accusation didn't become poison on the internet and tear his whole organization down. So very interesting to see how that stuff can work for you and work against you, and then how to maybe address that stuff as it comes to life.
Absolutely. And in those times when someone is more or less attacking you, that takes place in a variety of ways. You want to be very respectful, very professional, but I have found in more times than not that less is more. And when you rise above it and don't engage in all the negativity, then your supporters will actually support you more. They'll usually come to your defense in some way, which is actually strengthening your credibility than if you're trying to defend yourself. So do what you feel is necessary to clear the air and to protect your mission and to protect who you are. But be very careful with engaging down the tunnel, the spiral of negativity, where you are allowing that other person or that organization to rent your headspace and take your time and focus and stay focused on the negativity. So there's a fine line there between, you need to stand up for yourself. Absolutely. You need to stand up for yourself and defend yourself. But don't go down that spiral that just keeps that as the main focus. Because the other thing that I know about the world of media and about people is that we think that it's horrible and that it's devastating, and it is, especially personal attacks. They're horrible. But we live in a very, very fast-paced world to where it seems like, oh my gosh, this is going to be horrible and people are never going to forget. And that's all they're going to think about. That's all they're going to associate me with, whatever this thing is out there that was said, right? And actually, our world moves so quickly that when you exercise the power of silence sometimes and literally allow it to kind of blow over, people will forget. So do what you have to do to set the record straight, whatever that looks like for you. And then honestly, do what you need to do to resist the urge to not overpost, not over engage, because that will actually serve you better. And the more that those people continue to attack you, the more that your followers will actually start to kind of fight your battles for you anyway. I actually have had this happen. So I'm speaking from personal experience in both the online space and the more traditional space, because people are very fearful. They're very insecure. They're very jealous. People will attack you for just about anything under the sun, even if it's something that comes out of left field that you couldn't possibly have guessed. And so you need to make sure that you stay focused on your mission, stay focused on what's positive, defend what's necessary, and move on and stay focused and stay completely in your lane, because people will suck you into the vortex of negativity and keep the issue alive, even if it's not even really an issue worth keeping alive. And they want to suck you in that. I call it, don't rent the headspace to them. Don't allow them to keep you in that negative state. Don't allow them to switch your focus. You are in charge of you. You keep the focus. You don't give them your time. You don't give them you, right? You absolutely can control that. And there's sometimes when that's very difficult, but you have to stay centered and focused on what that looks like. So you might pray, you might meditate, you might listen to music, you might do whatever it is you need to keep yourself focused in the right direction, even harder than you normally would through these trying times. I'm here to say you stay the course, stay persistent, have faith, stay in your own lane, and don't get sucked into that vortex, because it will happen very, very easily if you allow it. And this is definitely one of those times, most of the cases, most of the time, less is more.
You know, it's tough getting pulled down into the mud for a fight. First of all, everyone's going to get dirty, and chances are they have more experience than you anyway. So you don't want to be caught in a mess down in there. I would love to know, and I would love to hear a story about a time where you went on stage and just completely sucked.
There's a couple of different times. I actually just wrote about this one of my little stories. I'll share a couple with you if you don't mind.
Okay.
So there's a couple. I actually just wrote about one in a book that I co-authored that's going to come out in about a month. But one time when I was in front of, I want to say there were close to 10,000 people in the audience and millions of people watching on TV.
No big deal. No pressure.
Yeah, no big deal. And I wasn't really that, I kind of was, just because there's millions of people, but I wasn't really nervous because I've been doing it so long now. I don't get super nervous. I use whatever energy I have to redirect as, excitement, more or less. And every opportunity is different. So sometimes you might have a lapel mic. Sometimes you might actually have a headset on. Sometimes there's a microphone. Like, everything is different. Well, this happened to be in Las Vegas, and I was in front of thousands of people with millions of people all over the world watching. And it happened to be a mic stand with a stationary mic. And so I wasn't holding it or anything. And I walked out on stage and I started to talk. And somehow, I still don't know how I did. I must have accidentally kicked it with my foot or something. But I bumped the mic to where it's teeter-tottering and kind of wobbling around, trying to catch itself and stay still again. So then what happens naturally is people start to almost kind of move themselves and grab, because you're moving with them. And it was so embarrassing, and I was so mortified. But I just quickly, I had to refocus as quickly as I could and just keep a smile on my face and just keep looking out into a sea of people and try not to lose my focus and just keep talking. And it was actually really embarrassing. I stepped off stage and my nerves were just shot, because I had to speak on stage then for several minutes after that.
Yeah, of course.
To just keep it kind of bottled up. But when I walked off a stage, I literally was bouncing around and moving with so much nervous energy. And I kept going, oh my gosh. And I was kind of freaking out for an hour. Honestly, for an hour.
No.
Because I just thought, I've never had that happen before, ever. So that particular, thing that happened, I've never had that happen before. I was in shock that it even happened, because I'm usually just more aware of my surroundings like that. So but it was so mortifying, so embarrassing. And then of course, with big sound systems, you get a lot of squeaky feedback for a second.
Oh yeah.
And so there were a few seconds of just this weird squeaky high pitched feedback while the mic was kind of dancing around on
Oh,
stage.
it's the worst.
So I was like, oh my gosh. So I'm trying to like maintain my composure and just do what I needed to do without seeming, because a natural reaction is just to hurry, like say what you have to say and hurry off stage.
Right.
But I couldn't do that. So I had to maintain my composure and still speak at a normal pace and just keep all that energy bottled up and walk off stage at a normal space. And that's why I think for the next hour, I was just like almost freaking out, trying to get my energy out. So it was really crazy. And it doesn't sound like it was a big thing, but it actually was. It's one of those things where if you were in the audience, I'm sure it was awful. It felt awful. It was horrible.
Did you tell like a quick joke to like cut the tension? Like that mic stand was talking smack to me earlier and I had it coming.
Oh no, no. Honestly, it caught me so off guard and shocked me so much because I'd never done that before. I quickly was like, okay, I just have to stay focused. I just have to look straight ahead and just keep talking. It was weird because it was just like this dancing microphone, and I'm just talking. It was so embarrassing. It was so mortifying. Like I hated it. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I pray that never happens again, ever.
So after that, you retired, you stopped speaking, you went into seclusion.
No,
you kept going. After something like that, you kept going?
I kept going. Well, this is the other thing is that actually, usually with bigger stages, I'm wearing a headset. And so the fact that there was even a stationary mic was kind of rare in our world today. You're just usually a lot more mobile with a headset or with other types of equipment.
Yeah, you're wanting to talk to the audience, right? And wherever they might be.
And I'm moving around a lot and stuff. And so in most cases, I have a headset or a lapel or something that's a little bit more mobile. But that was just one of those cases where it was kind of unusual that the mic was stationary, but that's how they had it set up. So in some cases, I might even take the mic out of the stand and walk around with it. But after that happened, there was no way I was even touching that mic.
See, I would have taken it out and I would have Spartan kicked the stand and be like, you need to start acting right. But so if you are a nonprofit and you want to organize an event, no microphone stands. You got to have the lapel mic. You got to have the headset. And if you're new at this, you got to have a backup microphone because there's nothing like getting someone like Arnold Schwarzenegger on stage, going to interview him, the mic cuts, and you don't have a backup. I forget who I was listening to, but they had Schwarzenegger on stage and it cut out. And because they had done another event before that, he reached back, pulled up the backup mic, turned it on, and got immediate accolades from Arnold because he's like, I do these all the time and no one ever has a backup mic and you had one prepared and ready. And that is a great, great mark of a good organizer. And he just got a testimonial from Arnold Schwarzenegger on the spot to this huge audience.
That's awesome. Yeah. You have to think of all of those things. Backup mic, extra waters, extra shirts and ties for random things that happen behind the scenes or an extra dress or a whatever. Like you have to be as prepared as you possibly can be. Even if you do an event 5 times and never need your backup stuff, it's going to be the one time that you either forget or don't think it's important that you need it. I actually made it. I as experienced as I am as events, fundraisers, community stuff, speaking, all this stuff, I made a rookie mistake. This was several years ago. I was doing a nonprofit fundraiser community type of an event, and I had my roll of tickets, and I was at the mic, and I was, I think, doing an auction or something like that. But for some odd reason, I didn't have a pen. I didn't have a pen. And I needed a pen. And it was just the most random, weird thing that I didn't have a pen. So I had to kind of go make it into a joke and like, I wonder if anybody has a pen in the audience, or I can't remember exactly what I said, but I basically had to stop and kind of tell these jokes trying to figure out how to come up with a pen. And after literally what seemed like forever, because when you're in that moment, it seems like forever. it was probably a minute, which is still an awkward amount of time. Someone from the audience handed me a pen so that I could write something down that I needed to write down and go on with the auction or the raffle or whatever. And I was kicking myself because I thought, oh my gosh, Lori, that's so basic. That's so rookie. That's so stupid. Like, why do you not have a pen in your hand, or why is it not on the table, that you're standing by or whatever? So you're going to make mistakes. Things are going to happen. But that's why you've got to think of as many backup things as possible. If you have a pen, have 10, or have your assistant have an extra one in her pocket or his pocket. I mean, whatever. You've got to plan for all these extra things, like extra lists, extra clipboards, because things, even if it's with you, it might start raining, or you might spill water on it, or you might, 1,000 things can happen. So definitely, you've got to think of all of those extra things to your best of your ability, and then use those awkward moments, use those mistakes or those situations to continue building your list of supplies or your list of things to not forget next time or whatever, because that's how you get better. But don't beat yourself up if something does happen, because even people that have been doing it forever, have random things happen, like they don't have a pen in their hand, or some. So it's okay, but just keep going with that, and never underestimate the importance of being overly prepared, because you never know when you might need some random piece of tape for something, or a stapler, or a hammer. You just never know. You've got to think of all the possible scenarios, even if you have all these extra lists and extra kits and extra supplies and extra whatever. It might be a guest that needs it. Maybe you don't even need it, whatever. But as an event organizer, whether it's for-profit or nonprofit, doesn't matter. You're going to look like a total rock star the more prepared that you are, and you're going to be a lot less stressed when things do come up, because you're going to have exactly what you need, some random supply. You're going to be able to grab it really quickly. Double-sided sticky tape. I am amazed at how many times I have needed double-sided sticky tape when I am trying to do an event in the community. Like, it's amazing. Like, you can use double-sided sticky tape for so much. It's like unreal. Whether that's on a wall, whether that's trying to literally keep a wardrobe piece together, have a broken zipper or a button it's crazy. So you have to be prepared for all these random things and build those into your budget, build those into your, your supply list. Make sure your team and your assistant and whoever is on your committee or whatever, make sure that they understand the importance of having all of these backup plans, backup lists, backup supplies, so that they can help you develop those. They can help you keep track of those. They can help you when they understand, like, oh, somebody needs an extra tie. Fabulous. Here's an extra tie. Go put that on. Like, even if it's something for your guest or whatever it is, because you just extra mics, extra extension cords, extra, just whatever. It's worth hauling it around, even when you don't need it for 5 events, because it's going to be that 6th event that you need something for.
It absolutely, the importance of being prepared is off the chain. But I imagine as a qualified, excellent, experienced speaker, this gives you a chance to connect with your audience with these little snafus. You're like, even a highly paid person up in front of you has a bad hair day or can't get it together. And if you are in this business, in this nonprofit space, doing this thing, you're going to have days like that, and know that people like me that are up in front of the stage, we got days like that too. And it's a little nerve-wracking, but you're going to get through it. It's okay.
Oh, absolutely. I remember about maybe 10 years ago, I was actually in Boise, Idaho at a live event for Beth Moore. And I love Beth Moore. She has the most amazing stories that she uses they're just authentic, that she uses when she connects with her audience. And I remember she opened the show by telling how she was backstage scrambling around because she couldn't find a comb or a brush or anything. And so she was panicked. And so she was in the middle of trying to eat her lunch before she went on stage. And she literally told the story about how she washed off her fork and used her fork to comb her hair before she walked out on stage. And I remember appreciating that story so much because not only did I appreciate how real that she was in that moment, but it was a really great reminder for me that stuff happens. It's gonna happen. It's okay. And it's okay to be honest about those moments and be real about those moments because we're not perfect. So we shouldn't expect perfection from anyone else. Your audience isn't going to expect everything to be perfect. They're going to want to know like, wow, you still did an amazing job in spite of some of these, glitches. Wow, this was amazing. And you're actually going to increase your credibility, increase your respect by the way that you show up authentically, not focusing on the negative and the stress of the situation, but how amazing that it was handled in spite of certain things that happened. And I've never forgotten that example that Beth Moore shared because it really, really did help elevate my own mindset behind being authentic and sharing the stuff that happens, the real stuff that happens. And someone like Beth Moore is a rock star in her space. Like she's been doing it forever and she's amazing. And she still is combing her hair in a huge arena in Boise, Idaho with her lunch fork. So I've never forgotten that. And it's really helped to affect and really how I show up and how authentic I am. It's okay to just be yourself. It's okay to have these things happen. But then how do you deal with that? How do you solve the problem? And how do you better prepare next time for when these things happen? It makes all the difference in the world.
Absolutely. So if there is one thing my listeners can do to get themselves booked on their local news station, who do they got to talk to in order to make that happen?
Well, besides me. So yeah, there's all kinds of local people. So you'll hear over and over and over, relationships, and connections. If you are out in your community and you are involved and you're showing up and you're volunteering and you're adding value, there's going to be somebody that you're connected to that knows somebody, honestly. If you're speaking at Rotary, if you're involved in service organizations, if you're volunteering in your community, if your nonprofit has a presence in your community, it's going to be very, very easy for you. So one of the things that's super, super simple is on your website, on your nonprofit page, whatever that is, make a simple post. Hey, we're trying to get the word out about this mission that's important, or we want to align ourselves with something that's on the national, campaign for something that's coming up that would be a newsworthy story for your paper, for your radio or TV on your local level. Anybody that can help connect us, great. It sounds simple. It may even sound too simple, but there is power in doing that. Just show up authentically and say, hey, this is our goal. This is what we're trying to accomplish. Does anyone in our area have a connection with such and such paper, such and such station? Start there and see what happens because it's absolutely amazing. Get yourself speaking at your local service organizations and be really honest about it. Hey, we would love to be featured more in our local radio. If anyone in the room has connections or can help make an introduction, our nonprofit organization would really appreciate the support for our mission. Just start talking about it and being real about it. And people would love to support you because they want to help solve the problem. They want to help offer value. So give them opportunities to do that. You don't have to be the one with all the answers. You need to leave the space open for other people to bless that opportunity, for other people to serve you and your mission and to be a part of that. They have value to bring. Give them ways to serve and to bring that value to you.
You mean I just don't have to give all the time? I can allow people to bless me like I'm blessing others?
Amazing, isn't it?
Isn't it amazing? And what's really amazing is how many people you have to tell this to. I was like, so you spent all day, every single day of your life helping all these people, but you're not going to give someone the opportunity to help you?
Don't be afraid of the power of ask. There is so much power in just asking. And remember that you need to throw out what you want to attract back. So if you want service-oriented people, if you want mission-oriented people to be in alignment with you, you've got to give them an opportunity to serve and to give and to support in that way. So it's okay to throw that out there. You throw the need out there, throw the ask out there, and then wait for people to actually, like the boomerang, right? Wait for it to come back to you. Wait for people to have an idea or to know somebody, or at least get you one step closer to where you want to go, and leverage the power of relationship in that way. Not to mention, even if no one in that particular room, let's just say, has that connection, throw it out there, because you never know how it's going to come back to you in a roundabout way, and to where someone can make the connection later, or they might be in a different meeting, later that week or next week and go, oh, I heard from this person that just spoke at our Rotary or our Kiwanis or our Lions that is aligned with something very similar to what you're talking about. Let me introduce you. Okay. So
Yep.
You have to still throw it out there, because you never know how it's going to come back to you.
Absolutely. I wasn't sure how to give back into my community. If you're listening to this and you don't know my backstory, I'm in Bahrain, deployed with the Navy, and this is move number 49 for me. And I had been in Oklahoma City for a while, and I didn't know how to be part of the community. I knew there's some things I wanted to do, some people I wanted to help. And I asked my buddy, I was like, what can I do? And he set up a meeting with someone that led to an introduction that led me to going to the South Oklahoma City Chamber of Commerce. And at the time, I didn't have a business. But I just wanted to meet people in the community. It's like people in the community do community-minded things, and they do things like Rotary or the Chamber of Commerce. And I showed up and like, hey, we're going bowling. You should come out. I was like, well, I don't have a business. How much is the lane? It's like, just come anyway. I was like, I'll just bring my bowling stuff. If, someone needs a fourth, maybe they'll let me bowl with them. It's no big deal. And it turns out that someone needed a fourth. I got to go with them. I got to meet all the people, and I hung around for the after party, and I got connected to my community. And because I showed up and then I stayed after to say hi and talk to people. That very next conversation I had was like, hey, Travis, you're in the military, right? Yeah. I got a friend, Shannon Riddington, who's writing a book with all military authors.
Awesome.
Would you like to be connected to see how that works? And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? So showing up, getting the connection led to my first published book and allowed me to be on the board of her nonprofit. And it just was showing up in a connection and being there and putting yourself out there and being a decent human being. Because I didn't show up for anything, just showed up to be there and provide where I could. And it came back to me in magical ways.
Oh, in so many ways that you just don't even know. That could be days later, weeks later, months later. I mean, you just really never know. I can't tell you how many times I have been at an event and months later, I have someone contact me because of something that was recommended, or they remembered meeting me randomly or whatever. And it was completely unrelated, but amazing. And something that would have never happened had I not shown up, with this other thing, served in this other way. The other thing that I think is important is always have that value first, that service-oriented mindset first. Never do anything expecting to get anything in return. Mm-hmm. You have to understand that that's part of the relationship building strategy. That's something that you need to do, but never, ever do anything with that as the expectation. It will throw your focus way, way off the starters. It will lead in incredible disappointment because you won't understand the ROI, and you're not showing up fully in a genuine way. Like the negative ripple effect from that, just by having the wrong expectation and mindset, is huge. So always do everything with value first, with that service-oriented mindset first. And with that, don't show up in the bare minimum. So if you're doing an event, help unload a couple of boxes, help open a door for someone, stick around, hang out a little bit afterwards, spend a few extra minutes if you have a booth at an event, for instance. Spend a few extra minutes kind of networking with the other people at the booth, helping them carry their things to their car or their trailer, help them tear down their booth. When you show up with going above and beyond in serving beyond just the expectation, you're not only going to feel you're going to have this greater sense of value and accomplishment from what you did with your time. But people will remember that. So it doesn't matter if you're carrying a box to a trailer for someone else's booth. They will remember you for doing that and associate value with you, which is what you want. Oh, I met so-and-so. They were so nice. They carried my box, or they helped set up my table. Wow, I want to connect with them further. Maybe you didn't even have much of a conversation, but they remembered you being an awesome person, and they reach out to you in another way. Hey, I remembered meeting you at such and such event. Thank you so much for your help. There's this other thing. I thought you might be interested. What do you think? I mean, you just never know. So number one, don't show up with the mindset of getting anything in return. And number two, don't show up doing the bare minimum. You want to serve and go beyond serve. I don't care if you're the last person to leave the building. You always want to show up with complete service in how you can show up fully and be of complete value, because you're already there, right? For one thing, don't boogie out there as fast as you can. Make the most of the time that you're there. And sometimes that's literally being the last person to close the door as the event organizer, is leaving and locking up. That's amazing. You've just absolutely positioned yourself for major value and credibility and helpfulness that they will remember, because you were the last one to help out and walk out the door with them. It's huge. It's so huge. And I've seen this. I love doing it anyway, but I've seen this come back to me. This particular strategy of over delivering in a service way, it's come back to me, oh my gosh, over and over and over and over and over, because I have been the last one to leave many buildings for many events. And it's amazing how it's come back to me. So I do it because I love to do it, but I also understand the strategy behind it in building those relationships, not expecting anything in return, but in building the relationship, and my credibility for my mission and what I'm trying to accomplish is huge.
Well, if that's not the perfect segue to the next thing that we're talking about, it's about you over delivering. You've got some freebies for my listeners. Tell us about these freebies.
I do. So I have a couple of different freebies today. So if you go to mediasecrets.net, you can download my free guide that talks about the 3 mistakes. So there's a ton of mistakes that I see, a ton. But I talk about 3 of the pretty big ones, of the 3 mistakes that people make in media. So you can download that, you can look at it, use it as a guide, stop making these mistakes today, right now. And then also, if you haven't had any media exposure, fabulous. Use this guide from the very beginning as the things that you do not want to do moving forward. So that's the first thing I have for you. The second thing I have for you is a fairly extensive 4-page guide on the differences between for-profits and nonprofits.
But this is an exclusive to our guests. You made it specially for us because you over-deliver.
I did. So this is a pretty great summary on where I take you through a checklist, more or less. These are the financial differences. These are the team differences. These are the structural differences. These are some of the differences that are maybe more obvious and visual. These are some of the differences that maybe aren't so much, but make the big difference in how you structure things, behind the scenes. So I talk about the differences in how you treat your team members, how you treat your volunteers, your employees, the differences that you understand, because I put very specific information in this guide for you, because there's so many mistakes that I am seeing that are destroying nonprofits from the inside out. And they're not understanding the differences and why there are differences and why those differences are important, and how you treat your people and how you position your nonprofit, how you position your mission in the community and in the world makes a huge, huge difference with what that looks like on the behind the scenes stuff, the back end stuff, the way that you have it set up, the way you have your office set up, the way that you and your team work, whether you're doing it solo or you have 2 people that are trying to run a big mission, or whether you have a team of people, doesn't matter. You have to have that strong structure in place if you want it to sustain. You're building sustainability, you're building longevity. You can't get to where you want to go with the wrong mindset and the wrong structure in place by not understanding the differences between for-profit businesses and non-profit businesses. And so many people are not understanding some of those differences. So I put this guide together exclusively for this podcast, for this audience, because I want you to get as much value to re-strategize your nonprofit and stop making mistakes, or to use it to get a strong footing from the very beginning as you're building a brand new nonprofit. Because there's some very key things that I talk about in this simple guide. Don't read it with the mindset of, oh, this is really simple, I'll remember this, it's no big deal. No, I'm here to tell you, I put it in this guide for a reason. They are very simple things, but they're things that are destroying nonprofits because they're not being done correctly. I don't care if this is a nonprofit that's brand new, operating for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. There's a lot of structural mistakes being made, and there's so much more success that can be had by having things set up correctly. So do not be in the wrong mindset looking at the guide thinking that it's too simple, because sometimes it's those simple foundational things that make all the difference in the world. So when you go to play basketball, when you go to target practice, when you do anything, you never forget your fundamentals. You never forget how you're breathing. You never forget your sights. You never forget your velocity. You never forget any of that stuff that's foundational, because you'll miss your mark every time. The same is true with nonprofit. The same is true with business. You never forget the simplicity of that foundation that sets the structure for your long-term success. And that's what I want to stress to you guys today as you get my 2 free guides. They're simple, but they're powerful. They're foundational. And they're things that you need to know and focus on right now, today, in order to set a more successful path.
Absolutely. I mean, there's not a sports team or an individual sport out there that when you're messing up, they don't say, hey, we need to focus on the fundamentals, or when you have some amazing shot, he has mastered the fundamentals. Look how great he has done. And it's the same in life. It's the same in business. And you better believe it's the same in nonprofit work. If you do a fundraiser and you get all this money and you don't take the time to write handwritten notes to your donors, one of the fundamentals, they're going to know that something's not right. They're going to just be like, I gave to them and I didn't really feel like I had the engagement, and they're not looking for, a big parade in their honor, but taking the time to send that handwritten note is so powerful and yet so fundamental that it has this huge, huge impact on who you are and what you do.
Huge. And one of the ways that an organization can be successful with that is including that in their overall plan. It's not an afterthought. It's what are we going to do to show appreciation, a handwritten note, a gift certificate, whatever that looks like. This is the plan. This is what we are doing, not what we want to do. This is what we will do by this date, and this is the person that's in charge of making sure that happens, whether that's you or a volunteer that you assign that to or paid staff, doesn't matter. But this is the plan, and this is when it will be accomplished by. That will help keep you accountable, and so that everyone knows the plan to accomplishing that goal that's a part of the important follow-up of that. Everyone understands way in advance that these are the tasks that need to be done after the event. This is the timeline that has to happen in order for us to maintain our credibility, maintain our donors, maintain our sponsors. We want to show appreciation. We want to be very swift. We want to be very timely, and it will keep that can from being kicked down the road with sending out those thank yous and, those gift certificates or whatever it is that looks like, that you're showing appreciation to your sponsors and to your donors and to all the volunteers, the community people, whatever that looks like. You want to have a very clear plan in place way before the event as part of your overall planning and strategy, so that it absolutely for sure happens. And then you be very diligent with your time. You be very diligent in staying in integrity with that, with the plan. Everyone knows and understands. And even if you have to stay at the office, 2 or 3 extra hours, and as a team, you say, okay, guys, this is what we're doing. It's important to our mission. It's important for us to stay in our integrity and do this. As a team, we're going to do this together. We're going to make sure that this gets done by midnight to meet our deadline, because that's how important that this is. So it's got to be part of your overall plan. It's not something that you just know has to happen after the fact and it'll happen. No, that's not a plan. You absolutely have to have a plan for success or it will fail.
Absolutely. Good advice. Great as always. What can we do for you? I know you're not a nonprofit per se, but what can me or my team or my listeners do to provide you value?
Oh, man. There's so many things I've got going on all the time. I love to connect with people. Connect with me on social media. Support my book, support some of the stuff that I'm doing right now as I'm trying to carry out my mission, my legacy for things that I'm building. Share my posts. That's a great way to support me by sharing some of my posts, sharing some of my stuff, encouraging people to buy my newest book, that kind of stuff. That kind of stuff is huge, greatly, greatly appreciated. So connect with me on social media and definitely support me sharing my posts, encouraging people to show up to events and, buy books or support different messaging with some of the stuff that I'm doing with Legacy right now, and building out, some of my children's books with some of my literacy centers, which we didn't even necessarily have a chance to talk about because there's so many amazing, cool things going on. But encourage people, if you know a nonprofit or a for-profit and you know somebody that can benefit from, extra coaching and training, or my Media Secrets book, or if I have resources that would be of benefit to you and your audience, please feel free to connect with me and share that out and let people know the resources that are available to them. Because I've got a ton of stuff that I love to offer value through, but it's incredibly valuable to me when people share my stuff and spread the word.
Absolutely. Top of my list. How can people connect with you? Where do they find you on social media? What's your website? What's the name of your book again? Yeah.
So the name of my book is Media Secrets Revealed, and it is on Amazon right now. And you can also connect with me on my main website, which is lauriemcneil.com. And I have all of my social media connections that are directly on my website. So you don't have to worry about finding me on Twitter and Facebook and all that individually. If you just go to my website, you can send me an email directly. You can connect with me on all my platforms. You can buy all my books and all my stuff. So sometimes it's easier just to have like a one-stop shop with everything in one place. So feel free to connect with me, lauriemcneil.com. Reach out to me anytime, and I will do my best to offer as much support to you and what you're doing as I possibly can.
Thank you so much for being on the show today. Amazing value, amazing insight, and all the freebies. I can hardly contain myself. Laurie, what a great show, and thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
You've been listening to The Nonprofit Architect. To listen to all our past shows, visit http://nonprofitarchitect.org. And be sure to subscribe, rate, and review our show. Thank you.